Here in this video, we are solving a small conceptual question. Let us see the problem is. In an iron disc with a hole, a brass rod is fit tightly. Let's understand what's the meaning of that. There is an iron disc. I'm drawing it only in two dimensions. It's all made up of iron. There is a hole. So, this is all the iron disc is, right? And this is what is being said like iron disc is. The pink I'm drawing is assume it like an iron. There is an iron disc. Iron disc. In the iron disc, there is a hole. In that hole, another metal like a brass rod is tightly fit. So here is a brass rod. This is a brass rod. So brass rod that is tight. Now what is happening is they were tightly fit. Our aim is now to get the brass rod out. What shall we do with temperature, right? So I want to get the brass rod out. I have two options. This system is together. We have to raise either temperature, rise or fall has to happen to the system. If temperature rises to the system, what happens now? As the temperature rises, the iron disc expands. Not only that, the brass rod also expands. Here we need to know that alpha of the iron is approximately 11 into 10 power minus 6 per degree centigrade, and alpha of the brass is equal to something like 18 into 10 power minus 6 approximately. That data may be given in the problem, but I have not given, but they are the standard things. Alpha is a measure of expansion of a material. It's very clear that alpha of the brass is greater than the alpha of the iron means what? For given rise in temperature, brass expands more than iron. That's the point that we need to understand carefully. Now, this brass, who is already tight, expands more than the iron. Iron also expands. That means the iron hole also expands, but the brass rod expands more. As the brass rod expands more, as the brass rod in a fitting mode expands more than iron, what happens? It is expanding more. It's already in a tight hole and it's expanding more. Implies what happens is rod fits more tightly in the iron disc. So if I have to remove that, we shall not rise the temperature. What happens if other case, if the temperature of system, that means both of them, is decreased? What happens when the temperature is decreased is alpha is not only a measure of expansion, alpha is also a measure of contraction too. As alpha of the brass is more than the alpha of the iron, brass not only expands more when you raise the temperature, when you decrease the temperature, brass contracts more than iron. So alpha is measure of not only an expansion, it's a measure of contraction too. So as brass contracted more, what happens is it becomes loose. This brass rod becomes loose because it has contracted more than what iron has contracted. It's loose. Who is loose? The brass is loose, and brass rod comes out of iron disc. Now that's the answer for the problem. But anyway, just for an understanding, problem is expanded a little more. However, answer will change if disk is made up of brass and disk is made up of brass and rod is made up of iron. Reverse, just reverse to the earlier case. So let me draw a diagram for that. So what's the next thing is this is iron disk. What we said like iron disk, but the rod is now made up of brass. Exactly reverse to that. Rod is exactly reverse to that. What happens now if I decrease the temperature? The same analysis. The same analysis. Now, as I told you, this is made up of disk is made up of brass, rod is made up of iron. We know that alpha of brass is greater than alpha of the iron, so brass expands as well as contracts more than that of iron. What happens if temperature is decreased is iron contracts less than brass. So brass contracts more, iron contracts less, thus it becomes more tight. Iron rod becomes more tight and you cannot get that out. And what is the other possibility? If temperature of the system is increased, what happens is as alpha of the brass is more, brass expands more than iron. As the brass expands more than iron, the size of the hole increases. Size of the hole increases more than what iron has increased. So it becomes loose. As brass expands more than iron, hole size increases and iron rod becomes loose. So this is the concept is very simple. It's all depends on how is that alpha is. I want you to understand one point carefully that alpha, I will write it here. Alpha is a measure of not only expansion of any material but also a measure of contraction. I want you to understand that point very carefully. Alpha is not just a measure of expansion but a measure of contraction. That's it. Thank you for watching.